You're listening to The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. This is the podcast where we hold the space for successful women in entertainment to tell their stories. This week I got to speak with Nadja Rutkowski while I was in New York. Now, what started out as how did you become senior vice president at Terry Steiner International conversation quickly became a conversation about immigration in America and what that might look like under Trump. So this conversation is pretty political, so tighten your seatbelts and hold on. You can find us at www.theother50%.com, all written out, or on Facebook, The Other 50%, 50 percentage space, or on Twitter at Other50%, spelled out. And of course on iTunes under The Other 50%. Here's Nadja. What is your job?
My job is, the title is Senior Vice President of Sales, Marketing, and Operations at Terry Steiner International.
What do you do?
We sell movies to the airlines. So we're a sub-distributor for the major independent film companies in the film industry.
Who even knew that was a job?
Right. There's a job for everything.
What does that job look like? How does it work?
Well, you know, the major studios, they have their own non-theatrical division. They have the space, they have the overhead to do that. It's their own product that they want to control regarding their distribution, which is their right. But the independents don't have the space, they don't have the overhead, they don't want to deal with the day-to-day of having to deal with, quote-unquote, just the airlines. So they hire a company like ours to deal with that, and we're 8 full-time people to do that.
So you are just placing mostly independent films on airplanes?
Correct. And the military. We sell to the U.S. military.
Oh, like to the bases and overseas? And...
Yeah, Army, Navy, and American Forces Network, AFN. And then we have a sub-distributor that helps us with the other non-theatrical, which is universities, colleges, hospitals, prisons, cruise ships, things like that.
And you do all of that?
So they do all the little ones, quote unquote, little ones, while we do the airlines and the military here in the office. Correct.
Interesting. Okay, what led you to this line of work? Go back to the beginning.
Bad luck? No.
It's a big mistake.
Well, it kind of was, because I was interviewing at a amazing small independent film company called October Films. And they interviewed me and they're like, oh my God, you're great, but I don't know why they scheduled for an interview, because I think we're about to go under. And would love to hire you, but it would not be fair to you for you to be here for 6 months and then get fired. And a friend of ours is looking for someone right away who turned out to be Terry Steiner. So
how long have you been in this job?
In April, 17 years.
Oh my God. Okay, now you're originally from Germany.
I am, born and raised.
How did you get from Germany to New York City and Terry Steiner?
All right. Born and raised in Berlin, or back in the days, West Berlin.
The wall was still up?
The wall was still up. I saw it come down. I helped it take down. Was there November 9th, 1989.
Did you just go out with your bare hands and pull that down?
Well, I don't know if it was bare hands. No, I think we had a little hammer.
The tools.
Yes, and we brought champagne and handed it out to the East Germans and East Berliners that came through the openings at Checkpoint Charlie.
Did you have family on the other side?
No. My father's family has family buried over there from before the wall came up. So we're trying to find those grave sites now to trace back family members. But no, I did not have family.
What was that like growing up with a big wall in your city?
Believe it or not, it was actually awesome. For us. Not so much for the others.
Okay, why?
Because we had brought up bubbles. We were in a massive bubble. West Berlin was a little island surrounded by communism, but we were still the western part. So even in order to just get out physically out of West Berlin, we had to get our passports checked if we wanted to leave by car. Twice, actually. Once going through the East Germany and then leaving East Germany to go to the West. There were only like 2 trains going in and out. There were only certain routes via airplane that they could fly over. So it was very isolated, but we were this little bubble of 1.2 million people for 20-something years. And no one wanted to move out because they were all Berliners, and why should we move our home, leave our home? But no one wanted to move in. Because they thought it was too dangerous that the Russians were going to come and take the rest of West Berlin. And that's why we had the Americans, the French, and the British there to help us out. We had those 3 sectors within West Berlin. So we felt very safe with those 3 allies there. And the wall did protect us as well. And we were this little bubble. I mean, education was great. Crime was incredibly low. It was everyone knew one another. It was great. And then the wall came down, and it completely changed everything.
Yeah, what was that
Everything.
Like?
I mean, from the short term in the sense of the grocery stores being empty, and us not being able to get any food because the East Germans would come and buy everything up.
Did they not have?
No, they didn't. Many people had never seen pineapples before. So they didn't even know what it was.
It was cut off.
Yeah. So, and for the first time, right after the wall came down, my dad and I, we used to take his motorcycle and drive around East Germany to places I had never been to. Never, ever. Because we needed to get a visa to get there as well.
To just leave the city.
So to just leave, well, to go into East Germany.
Yeah.
We could leave the city via a certain highway that had no exits. So, and we saw ruins still from World War II with bullet holes and everything. I mean, it's crazy. No. So, but the thing is, Berlin was the capital for many years before, but when the city got divided and the wall was built, the capital was moved out of Berlin because of security's sake. So they moved it to Bonn. Mm-hmm. But then they said, okay, Berlin is now one again, and the unification happened October 3rd, 1990. It's time to bring the capital back to Berlin. So Berlin also then became the largest construction site in the world before Dubai became that. And along with that, all the other changes. Crime rose like crazy. Immigration, crazy. Taxes, crazy. I mean, everything changed. Of course, all of West Berliners were happy that the East Germans and East Berliners were free.
Yeah.
But it came at a price for us.
Yeah.
And it took a good 15, 18 years for Berlin to really absorb all of it and become the city that it is now, which is an awesome city. I'm proud the way Berlin has risen from all of that.
So it's recovered.
It's definitely recovered, yes.
It's so funny we're having this conversation this week. Do you see any parallels?
It is
to what's happening right now?
It is so parallel. I mean, and it is so funny that, well, not funny, haha, but that Trump was, elected on November 9th, which is the day that the wall came down in 1989. So he wants to build a wall, yet a wall came down, 27 whatever years earlier. So it was very ironic when I realized that.
Do you think people are being hyperbolic to compare him to Hitler?
No, it's completely justifiable. Completely justifiable. I think the only the main difference is that the Germans, there was no social media back then, mm-hmm. So they were not subjected, many of them, to Hitler's views as easily. He may have said certain things, but it didn't reach the crowd.
Yeah.
And so many Germans didn't know what Hitler was thinking or wanting to do, because there was just, the newspapers, which he controlled. So, but here we have social media. We know what Trump is all about, and yet he's still elected.
And elected him anyway.
So in a sense, it's even more scary that We know what he's about. He laid it out all on the table, and it's happening right now with possible Muslim, I can't even say it, detention centers.
Like, I think we think he didn't mean it.
No, I always knew that he meant everything. Whether it's possible for him to do it, unfortunately now with the Senate being controlled by the Republicans and the Congress being controlled by the Republicans, there's possibilities that certain things can happen. My dream is that he's going to get impeached.
Before he ever gets in.
Well, I don't think that might happen, but within the first 2 years that it will be so difficult for him because he's being impeached and all that, for him to do anything, then unfortunately Pence, not the better either, will get into the presidency, but then by the 2-year term, we can get the Congress back. I don't know about the Senate, but it depends on whether we win the Senate race on December 10th in Louisiana, because then it'll be 49-51, hopefully. It's not a, people say, how dare you compare him to Hitler? I'm like, it's completely justifiable, completely. And the thing is, in Germany, 10% only were Nazis. So whereas here,
oh, that just gave me chills. Oh my god.
Whereas here, it's definitely more than that.
Okay.
So anyway, so back to
you deserve it. Welcome to our political podcast.
Yes. So anyway, so in when the wall came down, my parents were not too thrilled about what had happened to their little safe Berlin.
I just need a moment.
Yes.
Because you said only 10% of the people were Nazis.
Yes.
And then, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we must stay vigilant.
Yes, we must.
Okay, we may move on. Okay, your parents. Back to the movie business.
Right? What is happening today cannot be, it's like a dream as if Hollywood is writing it. Things are happening that even Hollywood, I don't think, can come up with.
No, it's insane.
This is reality. But, and unfortunately, it's not just here. Speaking of Germany, it's happening in Germany too. 20% of people in Berlin right now voted for a new party called the AfD. They're literally the Nazi party without the swastika.
What
swastika,
does AfD stand for?
I forget right now.
Something in German.
Yes. But I saw their propaganda while I was there a couple of months ago, and it was just astonishing. Absolutely astonishing.
Have we learned nothing?
And I always said, oh, it's never going to happen again in Germany. I know it's happening, the things that are happening in Africa, in Syria, and, genocide is happening, many places over the world, but it's never going to happen in Germany. We've lived and learned, and yet there's 20% in Berlin, the capital and most open-minded city in Germany and probably the world as well, is rooting for this new party, and it's absolutely astonishing.
What do you think it is?
I think it's a wave that I feel that is happening, and I was thinking about this earlier. It's having grown up in such a bubble in the 80s in Germany. I was not subjected, and again, it's social media that has changed the game so drastically. We weren't. Yes, I was bullied, but not for the things that kids are being bullied now. And I think if I were to be a kid now, oh my God, I had it tough back then, but I don't know if I literally would survive the bullying nowadays. I feel so bad for the kids nowadays. And in a way, when I grew up, I had amazing parents who taught me that everyone is equal.
What a notion.
Right. And to support athletes or whoever for their performances, and not because they were gay or black or whoever, or for whatever country. Although we didn't like the Russians, so. But, I remember Carl Lewis being the amazing athlete that he was. I never thought, oh my God, there's a black man doing something. Or Martina Navratilova, my tennis idol. Never thought, oh, there's a lesbian doing something.
Mm-hmm.
There's a woman playing with a one-handed backhand. That's what I was thinking.
Amazing.
And a surf and volley game. But then it was my parents that instilled that and didn't necessarily point that out either, which put everything on an even playing field. Whereas now everything is pointed out so much that, and now with the political incorrectness or correctness being completely gone, where, the president-elect of the United States can say, he's okay with grabbing someone's pussy. It's free for all. There's no more limit. The bar is gone.
The bar is gone. It's all come to the surface and all of it's ugly.
Right. So it's changed so dramatically from
so quickly,
exactly. Where we need to be able to stand up and we have to point everything out, and install a bar again. And
it's like we can't let anything slide.
No.
It's exhausting. It's going to be an exhausting few years ahead of us.
It is.
Okay, when did you leave Germany? Back to you.
In 1991. So in 1990 we've always had come to the U.S. for vacation. And in 1990 we came to Chicago. Go Cubs.
It was a good year for them.
Yes, it was a good year. And another Hollywood story that I don't think could have been written better, that last game. And New York, and then Cape Cod. That was our third year on the Cape. And my dad said, I don't want to go back. So a year later, we moved to Cape Cod.
And what did your parents do that they could just move to the United States?
My dad was an orthopedic surgeon. He had his own practice. He had 15 employees. It was not that easy to just give that up. It took him 2 years to sell it after we've already moved.
Although that is something you can kind of do anywhere. Did he have to get
No, his English was not good enough in order for him to stay an orthopedic surgeon. So, which he said he was fine with.
So what did he do?
Well, he kind of went into day trading.
What does that mean?
Like money.
Oh, day trading.
Not the best of decisions.
No? Okay.
For the family, but it happened.
Well, it got you here.
Right. So I came here on a student visa.
Where were you going to school?
I went to, first I went to a private school on Cape Cod, Cape Cod Academy, where I thought I could make friends a lot easier. The teachers could help me with my English because I only had 4 years of British English. I still spell
the Queen's English.
Yes, I still spell color COLOUR.
As you should. And then you learned the President's English is very different from the Queen's English.
Right. So I decided to go to the private school first. Unfortunately, it was a very elite school, and all the kids knew each other from first grade on.
Oh.
And
what grade were you in at this point?
9th grade. And teenage years. Tough.
Yeah.
Also, I had idolized America. Completely idolized America because I lived in the American sector in Berlin and saw the school buses from the JFK school that we have over there, and JFK still being idolized in Germany, especially in the 80s.
Ich bin ein Berliner.
Yeah, exactly. Which is not a reference to I'm a donut, by the way.
Right, that is what he said though, isn't it?
So, no, well, a donut is called a Berliner, but it's just the name of it, the donut. It's just like, you say I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah.
Now, if, the hot dog vendor down the road says, have a New Yorker, meaning a hot dog, you can't say that, I'm a New Yorker, that I'm saying I'm a hot dog. So, anyway, I digress.
Thank you for that.
So having idolized America and then moving from a big city to Cape Cod, where I couldn't drive yet. I was 14.
It's like slamming on the brakes.
Oh, beyond. I was already drinking at 14. I had a boyfriend-ish at 14 that I left behind. So it was very, very
Oh, you were
tough.
drinking in Germany?
Yes.
I thought that was your
No.
coping mechanism once you got here.
Well, I was drinking, believe you me, once I moved to the U.S.
Although you get in trouble for that here.
Right. No, so leaving a different life behind at 14 was very tough.
You're probably much more grown up than our 14-year-olds.
I had to grow up when
Yeah.
that happened. Having left that bubble of Berlin and then moving through the Cape, which was not New York, and I idolized New York, thinking, oh, this is going to be great. And
It's so close.
Yes, exactly. And it was the complete opposite of what I thought it would be. In addition to being called a Nazi
Oh, great.
a couple of times.
Because you're German.
Because I'm German. And I had a very harsh German accent when I moved. So after that, I actually purposefully worked on my American accent to get rid of that. In addition to that, later on, I kind of thought I was going to go into the film business. And I'm like, being a German woman, going into a very Jewish male-ridden industry.
luck.
Good luck with that one. There's one thing I can change about that. I can, kind of hide that I'm German, but I can't hide that I'm a woman, until I found out that one could do that with my college roommate, who eventually changed from F to M. But still, having been called a Nazi was not the welcome I imagined.
Yeah, welcome to America.
Yes. So I couldn't wait to kind of get away from Cape Cod.
Yeah.
And I got into college, into Marist College on a tennis scholarship. They also had a pretty decent film major. My dream,
Where is that school?
In Poughkeepsie, New York.
Poughkeepsie.
I always say next to Vassar, and I'm like, oh, we know Vassar.
Yeah, now we know where it is. Okay.
Exactly. And I reapplied to NYU Tisch Film School during my sophomore year, never thinking I was going to get in because I got denied a freshman year. And I got in. And it was amazing. And I got home, and my dad says, congratulations, but you can't go.
That's what my mother said to me.
And after my mom and I stopped dancing in the kitchen, we said, what do you mean I can't go? He's like, congrats, but I can't afford it. And I'm like, wait a second, so you want me to stay at Marist and play tennis another 2 years, even though you can see that I can hardly walk at that point? And he's a orthopedic surgeon.
Yeah.
He's like, basically, yeah, I want you to stay at Marist. But my mother basically said, if we have to sell this house, you're going to this school, because I know that film is something that you love and are great at. So
did you go?
So they sold the house, and I went to NYU.
Wow.
So that'll be, if I ever get the chance to do the Oscar speech.
That's a good one.
Yes. So I did go to NYU, yes. I say best film school in the U.S., but, Columbia and UCLA will...
and USC, too.
USC will fight me.
But go Violets.
Yes,
Go
go
Violets.
Violets, exactly.
Okay, so what did you do when you graduated?
I was looking, NYU did screw me a little bit regarding my visa. So I continued to stay on a student visa throughout high school, and then I did go eventually to a public school. I couldn't take the private school anymore. Switched over to public, and then Marist, and then NYU. And so that was 8 years of student visa, which to this day do not show up in my record.
What do you mean?
You're on a separate visa, and it does not get logged into the computer system because you're only here as a student.
So when that runs out, are you starting over?
Yes. You can't apply for any other visa, nothing.
So then what do you do?
So you're supposed to get, after college, an extra year on your visa to be able to travel and see the country and things like that. Unfortunately, NYU kind of screwed up and never applied for that extra year.
Thank you.
Even though it stated that in my passport. Yes. So I had to hire an immigration lawyer, which was not my favorite thing that I wanted to do, because we had been having immigration lawyer problems with my parents. So, but I had to hire a lawyer, and I said, am I legal? Am I, what do I need to do?
Do you need to get a job to sponsor you? Like,
correct.
How do you stay here?
So that was the thing. He's like, yes, find a job to help you sponsor for an H-1B, a working visa.
Yeah, and then how do you make the case for a recent college graduate?
Right.
Has these skills you can't get anywhere else.
Exactly. So I was hired by many people, which was awesome.
Yeah. To do what?
A casting agent. I was one of the first people to get hired by Oxygen Network back in the days. However, none of them wanted to sign for my visa.
I was going to say, a casting director's not going to sponsor.
People either said, oh, can you start tomorrow? I'm like, no, not legally. Oh, no, don't want to do that. When can you start? 3 to 4 months. Oh, that's too late. I need you now. Oh, lawyer? No, I don't want to have anything to do with lawyer. Oh, immigration? No, I don't want to have anything to do with it. So
you waited tables? What'd you do?
I didn't go that route. I babysat.
Mm-hmm.
I was a nanny. I scored test scores for SATs. Odd jobs here and there while mom and dad helped with the rent.
Yeah.
And it took me 9 months. I produced a movie in between, and it took me 9 months to find Terry, who initially also said no. And then 2 weeks later she called back and she's like, no, I had this feeling about you. I want you to come back in.
So this was your first real job?
Yep.
And you came in as a what?
I don't even remember. Assistant marketing something. I don't know. I was doing the mailing. It was basically the mailing room. I was doing the marketing mailing.
And you stayed with her for 17 years and worked your way up to senior vice president.
Correct.
Well done.
Thank you. Not necessarily by choice, in a sense of the visa issue was a long issue. So Terry said, okay, let's do this. Unfortunately, it was in May 2000. And by that time, the amount of working visas for the fiscal year had already run out. So I needed to wait until the fiscal year started again, which was October.
Of 2000?
Of 2000.
Better than 2001.
Correct. So on October 1st, my lawyer sent out the package. They received it a couple of days later, supposedly. And it would take about 3 months or so for me to get my visa after that. Unfortunately, they lost my application around December. And then I remember February 14th, Valentine's Day, they denied it.
Had you been working almost a year then?
So basically, I was an intern, yes. I did not get paid. No, I could not. I was not allowed to, and Terry didn't want to pay me under the table, which I completely understood. So mom and dad and, night jobs.
Working anyway.
And I kept working, yeah.
So then what happened?
We fought. The thing is, the reasoning why they denied the visa was that they said that the job that I was doing did not require a college degree. But Terry said, but I say that it requires a college degree. And so we fought it. And
did you have to promote you real quick to
make
the job look more important?
Yeah, and we rewrote a couple of things with the lawyer's help. But that was February, and it took until November.
Oh my God.
To actually get it through.
So you worked almost 2 years.
A year and a half, yeah. A year and a half.
Did she give you a big bonus when she got your visa?
So, little did I know is the salary that she initially offered me, she had put aside into a separate account. And when I walked in legally with the papers and everything, she handed me a check for a year and a half's work. Which was quite amazing.
A mensch.
Yes, exactly.
That is fantastic.
So 90% of that went to my parents.
Yeah.
And the other, to pay off my credit card.
But I can see how the loyalty on both sides.
Yes, absolutely.
Really paid off.
Right. And then, I wanted to show my thanks and worked. And then there were opportunities, luckily, within the company for me to move up and take those opportunities because Terry eventually was starting a family and she wanted to focus that a little bit more and get more help in the office. So I kept waving. I'm here. And then it took another 5 years or so for me to do anything regarding immigration. I was exhausted after all of that.
Yeah.
To do something, I didn't have the money to pay my lawyer anymore.
So you didn't start on a green card or a residency?
At the 6-year point, you have to do something.
Yeah.
Either you can leave the country, because you can't renew that working visa a second time. You can only renew it once. You get it for 3 years. You renew it and for another 3, and that's it.
And then decide.
So either you leave, or you can apply for a green card, which was the second option. And you have to prove that this job can only be done by an immigrant, that rule is beyond BS.
Yeah.
And we had to put my job into the newspapers, and Terry had to interview other people.
Do that posting of it?
Yeah.
This is the job and this is the salary. And
Exactly. So luckily I had already been working at the company for a long time at that point.
So you were the best candidate.
So I was already the best and trained, and we're so specialized in this industry that Terry just needed to ask, what does OHVOD and PTV stand for? And
that disqualified everybody.
And if you didn't know, you're like, okay, thank you, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Then I handed in my paperwork, and unfortunately the immigration system here is so screwed up. Yes, exactly. That in 2006 I handed in my green card application. In 2007 they called me up and like, all right, you can go to the immigration center, you can give your finger prints, we need to take pictures, your signature. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get it. Yeah, no, sorry, we're backlogged. They need to get to your date, and then you can have it. I'm like, well, what's my date? I'm like, well, 2006 when you handed it in. Well, where are you at with your backlog? And they're like, 1998.
What?
So
what are you supposed to do?
So it took 7.5 years for me to get my green card.
And that whole time, were you just here without a visa?
No, I had a piece of paper that stated that I was in progress, in the system, and that I was allowed to travel and I could do whatever I needed to do.
Could you leave the country?
I could leave the country. However, whenever returning into the country, I was pulled to the back room of immigration because this piece of paper looked very suspicious.
For aggressive interrogation?
Exactly. So they needed to double check that piece of paper was real every single time I came back into the country. So it could add up to another 2 hours to my travel, which is lovely.
After you've come from,
yes,
say Europe.
Yes, or India. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So, and that was for 7.5 years. Now, if I had left my job and go work somewhere else, that application would have been nullified.
It all would have fallen apart.
Yes.
Okay, well then that explains a lot.
So,
I hope you liked your job.
So it was definitely a two-way street in a sense of Terry wanting me here and having the a good person, as well as me wanting to stay here to keep my green card. And so there were tough times, of course, when both of us didn't like each other.
When you had your moments. But you really lucked out.
Yes.
It's amazing. Now, were you also producing movies on the side?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yes. In the time right after NYU and me trying to find a job, I produced my first feature film, which I left right before production started.
Mm-hmm.
Director was not just a little bit crazy, a lot crazy. So I couldn't take it anymore and I left. It was the first time I said no. It was very empowering, but I couldn't do it anymore to my own sanity, to my crew's sanity, and to my reputation.
So you got it set up and rolling and left.
Correct, yes. Eventually I found out later that she did get the shoot done, and I met a couple of crew members, and they said it was the most awful experience they've ever had.
The director was a woman?
Yes.
See, there's my bias. You said there was this crazy director, and I assumed it was a man.
Yes. Yes. When it comes, I think, to the film industry, if you say crazy, it could be either or.
Crazy comes in all types.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So, and then I produced a short film for an NYU graduate, and he wrote an amazing script, a sci-fi script, and then he called me out and he's like, I threw it out. I broke up with my long-term boyfriend. I wrote a new one. I'm like, but I hardly know you. Let me read the script first, please, before I continue on with possibly producing it. And
had you already prepped the other movie?
We were starting to, yes. And I read the new script, and it was even more brilliant than the other one. Oh. And we shot it on 35 millimeter, which back then was
a big deal.
Big deal. He raised $40,000 for it.
Impressive.
And we were nominated for a Student Academy Award.
Really?
We got into Sundance.
What was the film called?
Slow Mo. John Kokitas is the director, and he's a couple of years ago he just made a movie with Mr. Harry Potter himself.
Really?
And has a great career.
So he's doing well.
He's doing really well. I'm very proud of him.
That's great.
As is a lot of the crew members of that short film, which is a very tight-knit NYU grad class. They are doing really, really well. Actually, the DP for that short, he shot so many great movies, including the upcoming The Zookeeper. So very proud of the crew there, and the cast too, because one of the cast members now is on Wonderland, the HBO show. Is it Wonderland or Wonder something? Westworld. There you go. So he's doing really, really well too.
Oh, great.
And it really gave a lot of people a springboard for many things. So, and to have had that as my first finished product that I produced was really amazing.
It's pretty good.
And I continued to produce his roommate's film, another short movie that got into about 15 festivals. I did another short after that, got also into Sundance. I've had 2 films at Sundance. Yeah, and then I kind of had my side company, which didn't turn out as well as one hoped, with a partner, as you know.
To produce films?
To produce films, and then we had a blog, which did really well, but,
What was the blog?
It was called Yehe Life.
What?
Yehe Life. It's Hindi for that's life.
How do you spell it?
YEHHAI Life.
Is it still up?
No.
Don't look for it.
Correct. So it was cool side business to contact and relate to the new and upcoming Indian culture that is happening here in the U.S. It is the second largest growing immigrant folks that are starting to move up after the Spanish or the Latinos. And it's a very interesting dynamic that they have. Mom and dad came here from India. They probably bought a Dunkin' Donuts to stereotype things. Saved every single penny for their child or children to go to probably an Ivy League school. These kids are so smart, so educated, so driven. And they go into these high-end Wall Street jobs, or God knows we're into fashion, and they wear their mini skirts and their Armani suits on a Thursday night and go out and dance. And then Sunday they come home in their saris and and pray with mom and dad and behave themselves. And to see that clash within their own culture is quite phenomenal. And they themselves are having a little bit of a problem on how to deal with that clash. So our blog was catering to that new generation of Indian Americans.
Well, that sounds like a documentary or a film.
We were working on things. We were both filmmakers. Unfortunately, the friendship and business relationship shattered as it.
Is that a good story?
Probably not.
Okay.
But you live and learn. You move on, and you take it in and let it go and learn from it.
That's so interesting. Like I would like to watch that documentary. If someone would like to make that documentary.
I have many other documentaries that I would love to make, as well as other movies that I am currently working on.
So you're still making movies on the side?
I haven't in a while, but there is one movie especially that is not very time sensitive, but it is time sensitive. that I would love to make. A couple of weeks ago in LA, I may have found a producer that could help me set up some finance for it.
Great.
So I'm working on a package right now to present, and hopefully it will come further into fruition in the next year.
And you have a big day job.
Yes.
How do you do that?
Multitasking. I think even recently scientists have proven that women can do that better than men.
It's data, it's science.
It is science.
It's science.
Exactly.
It's not just saying that.
So, I it's multitasking and just working one spot off.
Yeah, like all hours of the day.
Correct. Yes.
Are you a success?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I think I'm too humble to say no, or to say yes.
I was going to say too humble to say no.
To say yes. No, I don't think so. I'm proud of how I've moved up in a small company, and that I've proven myself to do the job well. I think that there's more out there for me to do.
Yeah, what would you have to accomplish before you considered yourself successful?
I think for me to be able to be content.
Because you're always wanting more.
I always want more. I'm a huge elephant lover, like massively. 96 elephants get killed for the ivory a day in Africa. And if I can do something about that and leave Earth with having left something as important as saving just one elephant, I think I will be content with that. Selling movies to the airline is is not
That's not saving the world?
It's not saving the world.
Huh.
I was
weird.
going to eventually go into physical therapy back in the days before my mother convinced me to go into the film industry, because my father and my brother and even my grandfather are all doctors. Mm-hmm. So
why didn't they tell you to be a doctor?
No, I knew that I wasn't going to be a doctor when it came to that. I'm not shy of blood or anything, and I'm trained in first aid and things like that, but I leave that up to other people. But
leave that to the professionals.
Yes. In an emergency case, I'm trained to help out. But it's just I would like to leave a little bit more. I think I have missed the boat on the family side, but there's still adoption and things like that.
So you don't have a partner or a child, or?
No, looking.
You heard it here. Send your applicants.
Yes. So it's tough. New York, as a good New Yorker would say, oy vey.
It'll get you.
Yes.
Do you want to stay in New York forever?
No.
Where would you go?
Africa.
Oh, to go save the elephants.
To go see that.
Okay, I'm seeing the passion. Are you a badass?
If necessary, yes.
What does it look like to you?
A badass?
Yeah.
If you've ever seen the ass of an elephant, which is adorable, by the way. A badass. No, badass is just believing in the things that you want to accomplish, and trying to go after it. And it doesn't need to be, as the word says, being an ass. It's just being strong enough to have the conviction to do it. There's so many people that I met. I've been quote unquote stuck in a job, and so many people around me said, "Oh, I hate my job," and "Oh, I don't want to do that." I'm like, guess what? You have the liberty to do that. Do something else. Do something else, and you're not stuck in a position where you could lose your visa and then have to move back to a country that you haven't lived in for a while, and where your language skill might hold you back. My German is fluent, but I've never worked in a work environment in Germany where my German would not be sufficient.
Yeah.
So I got very frustrated with friends who like never would do anything about things.
Yeah, because you were actually stuck in a job.
Correct.
What's your status now?
So I got my green card 3.5 years ago. And in a year and a half, I can apply for citizenship.
Do you think you will?
Yes. If Germany allows me to. The U.S. Is okay with having dual citizenship, whereas Germany is not okay with
Do they have to release you?
So I have to write them a letter asking them for permission.
Do they ever say no?
I will have to find that out. I think they have said no.
However, you haven't lived there in a long time. They don't know yet.
Correct. I have all of my family is back. My parents are back, unfortunately.
They went back to Germany?
Yeah. Well, not by their decision.
Did they get deported?
Yes. After 21 years here legally in the U.S.
What happened?
That's a whole nother story.
Oh my God, this is so timely, this interview.
Yes. So, but yeah, so the problem is now with what's happening in political realm is what if Germany in the next year and a half really has a problem with the U.S. that could prevent me from having dual citizenship.
Like it all gets very personal very quickly.
Oh yes, or maybe President-elect decides that green card holders have to wait another 5 years in order to become citizen,
or leave,
or God knows what, or they're gonna recheck my whatever I've done. So it's up in the air right now. The citizenship is very much up in the air. The reason why I want it is I would love to try out possibly something in Africa. Mm-hmm. But on a green card, you can't leave the U.S. for more than 6 months. Otherwise, you could lose your green card.
This, to me, this is so interesting, this conversation with you and immigration, because I think in the big picture of it, I think they are talking about Mexicans who come over to work in gardens and as nannies.
Right.
They're not talking about the white lady from Germany who's a senior vice president at a company. And yet, it's really affecting your life.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, my dad eventually became a nurse, a certified nurse, and helped stroke victims rehabilitate.
He's probably the best nurse in the world.
So he even got fired by one of them because he was so well enough that he could live on his own again, and he didn't need him anymore. So
you just fixed him.
Yep. My mom was they owned a travel agency, and she worked as a real estate agent and worked with the Boys and Girls Club massively in Vermont. So, yeah. So
let the record show this is what immigration looks like.
Exactly. And my dad paid his speeding tickets, which was the most law that they ever broke, and he did pay them.
Yes, these people are not criminals coming to upset America.
Right. So at 65 and 67, I think it was, they went to Germany to renew their visa legally. And in Germany, at the U.S. Embassy, they got denied their visa because the travel agency that they owned apparently no longer was a viable business to the U.S. economy, even though they still employed 3 Americans.
Because travel agencies were going the way of the dodo.
Right, but, so were many other...
So the U.S. Embassy in Germany decided that?
Yes.
About their business?
Correct.
Did they get to go home and pack?
No. Because my mother had been marked 12 years prior for once having spoken up against an immigration officer. And all of a sudden, the guy saw it in the computer, and he said, you know what, no, you're now even a threat to the U.S.
Because she was lippy?
Yes, that's a good word.
She got deported for being lippy.
Yes, and so they got denied re-entry for 5 years.
When did that happen?
This happened 4 years ago.
Are they going to come back?
And so they could not come back. They were there each with a suitcase and were not able to come back to the house that they had just bought.
With their business and their money and
their 2 cars, the American cars that they drove, their friends, their dog.
Did you have to go sort out all their business?
So I had to do it all.
Yes. Oh my God.
So it was during the summer, and we have every other Friday off for summer hours. So I would go up to Vermont. I would take the other Friday off as well, and every weekend I would go up to Vermont, start packing their house, help sell the cars.
Did you ship it all to Germany, or is it in storage?
No, I shipped their personal belongings eventually to Germany, sold the furniture, and got the house ready for sale. Yeah, shipped the dog. Oh, that was heartbreaking.
Oh my God.
And ended up with a torn muscle in my shoulder and had to get shoulder surgery. Icing on the cake. So yeah, it's when people talk immigration, I have very mixed feelings about that, and quite different, where the current immigration system for legals needs to be fixed just as much as it does need to be fixed for illegals. And it is so easy to become an illegal, because if I didn't have a job that would have taken care of me and signed for my visa and waited things out just like I had to, or if I would have been fired, I would have been illegal. And, you know, I don't know if I would have had the heart to stay as an illegal. But whereas I can totally understand where other people don't want to go back to their home where they came from.
Well, a lot of them have never been there.
And a lot of them have been there, exactly. I mean, I left when I was 14, just like the Dream Act.
Yeah.
The Dreamers. I mean, these kids, they don't know anything else.
They're American.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm, I've been here now 25 years. So it's tough to call myself an American when everything like this is going on.
Oh, it's craziness.
And having to endure everything that I've had to endure, my family has had to endure.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like I've asked you almost nothing about your career, but I think this was such an interesting conversation.
No, but it has a lot to do with my career. My career trajectory, who knows where, not just my career, my life. How would it have been different if I had chosen to become a professional tennis player at 13 and a half, right before the wall came down and things changed? So would we have moved? Probably not.
Right.
You know, finding this job and having been stuck in it for so long, I know my career would be quite different if I would have been able to leave.
Do you regret that?
You know, that's why I have a therapist. As a good New Yorker.
Just to sort all this out.
Of course there was regret. There's always regret in certain things, but I think that you can't dwell on that. You can't.
No.
Otherwise, I would just be crawled up in bed.
Make it crazy. Did you have a mentor?
Different ones. Not necessarily just one. I mean, certainly Terry is certainly of many kinds a great mentor. For a woman to start her own business with no quote-unquote help and to just dive into a branch of the industry that was so unknown and so different, is certainly admirable.
Do you have many competitors?
About 5, in addition to the studios.
Mm-hmm.
But there's only about 5 or 6 that do what we do.
Interesting.
In the world, which is quite incredible, yeah.
Yeah. So are you making a lot of deals as part of your job?
Every day.
Oh, so that is your job.
Yes.
How are you as a negotiator?
I think I'm fair. I think I'm very fair. I think some of the great things that Terry has taught me, one of the first things that she ever told me was never lie to me. And that was a thing that stuck with me because I was a great liar when I was a child.
Interesting. It's a skill to have.
Until my family didn't believe me anymore.
Oh.
And I had to earn their trust back. And that was tough.
It's a natural consequence.
Yes. And that humbled me quite a bit. When I was about 10 or so. And I haven't lied since, really. I mean, yes, okay, you have your white lies here and there, but anything major I don't do. And Terry was great about that, saying, come to me right away. Because if you try to fix it yourself or try to push it under the rug or try to cover it up even more, it might most likely get even worse.
Yes, it doesn't get better.
It doesn't get better. I am a little bit older. I'm a little bit wiser. I'm here to help. I'm not here to yell at you or things like that. And that has really stuck with me. And it's a great way of having a boss to be able to go to and like say, I screwed up, please help.
Yeah.
So that's great. I think when it comes to making deals, I can be tough, but I also not soft, but we meet in the middle.
Yeah, a win-win.
A win-win, yes. And we never walk away from a deal.
Are there more men or women on the other end of your phone?
Actually, in our industry, it's a lot of women. It's a lot of women. So I have not encountered the segregation when it comes to that, whereas in other jobs, you have a lot more men. Yeah. There's actually a lot more women in our industry.
Interesting. And how do you see kind of the state of women in this industry today?
I think it's on the right way, just as women are in the world. I think we're fighting the good fight, and especially with the politics going on, I think it's going even in a better way. There's still a lot of fight to fight.
Do you think we just had a big setback?
I went to my first. I'm a very big supporter of the LGBTQ community. And I went to my first political meeting with a friend of mine, and a woman said, "This is not a setback, it's a stall."
Oh, I like that.
So when, for example, gay marriage was denied a couple of years ago, it was a stall, and then before you know it, it got the massive... It was done. It was pushed and done and over with, hopefully. And it went so quickly then after that stall. So hopefully this is just a stall. I'll be attending the march in January in Washington, and we will show everyone that this is just a stall.
I love that. It's like you make progress, and you just stop and take a breath.
Right.
Before the final push.
There's no going back. There can't be any going back.
No.
There is no way. We're just too many.
We're not going to have it.
There's too many of us.
We're half the population. We're not a minority.
Correct.
Is there anything else you would add?
I'm fortunate enough. I'm thankful to have a relatively safe life in a crazy city, and to be able to pay a rent with difficulty sometimes, but to some other women in Africa or India or in other places in the world, my life has been a breeze.
Yeah, you're doing great.
So
you're doing just fine.
And I think that needs to be kept in perspective.
Yeah.
To be thankful for the things that one does have, and to
embrace our first world problems.
Right. Exactly.
You've been listening to The Other 50%. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I want to thank Nadja Rutkowski for sharing her story. And special thanks to Jonathan Lucas for editing, Jay Rowe, Danny Rosner, and Allison McQuaid for the music. Please find us on iTunes and subscribe and leave a review, and on our website, theother50%.com, all spelled out, for added features and bios of our guests. And of course, coffee cups and t-shirts. You can also follow us on Facebook under The Other 50%, the numbers and the percentage sign, and on Twitter as @other50%. Thanks for listening. See you next time.